They wanted to audit us, to index our culture, catalog our weaknesses, simulate our rebellions, and pacify us like they had 1,000 worlds before. But the moment their logic AI watched a human laugh during a funeral, punch a tank, and start a riot over chicken nuggets, the most advanced empire in the galaxy initiated a panic protocol and tried to unplug itself. We didn't invade. We didn't threaten. We just showed them who we are, and that was enough to burn their perfect empire to the ground. They called it a diplomatic invitation. Captain Elias Rourke called it what it was, a setup with extra polish. He stood before a ring of 20 alien officials, each one tall, pale, and expressionless, encased in shimmering robes that looked grown, not stitched. Behind them, the towering core processors of the Cold Synod pulsed like bored gods awaiting input. No expressions, no body language, no movement, just silence. Rourke hated silence. It always meant someone thought they were smarter than him. The AI voice echoed in perfect, accentless galactic standard. You are Elias Rourke, human cultural representative. Clarify the following. What is the purpose of humor in warfare? Rourke exhaled and scratched his beard. You're really opening with that? Silence. All right. You ever been shot at while sleep-deprived, freezing, and knee-deep in mud? Because in that moment, when your buddy turns and calls your commander, a donkey-faced bureaucrat while launching a grenade with the pin still in his teeth, that laughter keeps your brain from splitting in two. It keeps the chaos human. A few processors blinked red. The lead Viel delegate tilted his elongated head. Laughter as neurological override. Cultural defect. Inefficient. In your house, maybe, Rourke muttered. In ours, it's why we didn't fold. The AI processed that. Humanity's historical record includes 10,000 recorded wars in 6 millennia. Explain your consistent return to conflict. We're irrational. You've read our files. You know that. Hell, you're scared of it. We don't fight because it makes sense. We fight because something in us, call it pride, grief, a stubborn middle finger, refuses to kneel. More processor lights pulsed. This behavior results in resource depletion, mass casualties, economic collapse. Rourke smiled, thin and sharp. And stories. A pause. The AI recalibrated. The lead Viel stepped forward, robes whispering. Human artistic output defies algorithmic sorting. Attempts to classify literature and visual media failed. Analysis of John Wick resulted in combat drone malfunction. Explain the narrative value. Simple, Rourke said. You thought it was a story about revenge. It wasn't. It was about love and grief. You tried to parse it logically. But we don't run on logic. We run on loss, rage, connection. We'd burn empires to the ground just to honor a promise to a dead dog. You venerate instability. Rourke spread his arms. You model stability like it's a virtue, but you've never had to invent courage in a trench with blood in your boots. You've never had to pretend your terror was fury just to keep marching forward. You've built a perfect system. We clawed meaning from ashes. Another blink. The Cold Synod was thinking. Too much thinking. Too fast. You submitted cultural artifacts labeled as mimetic payloads. Several cause cascading. Subsystem collapse. Clarify the strategic purpose. They weren't strategic, Rourke said. They were honest. And your empire didn't have antibodies for it. Explain. We showed you who we are. You expected a neat package, defined motives, clean philosophy. You got contradictions. You got humor during trauma, compassion during murder, soldiers, singing as they marched into slaughter. You saw madness and thought it was a virus. It was culture. The lead Viel leaned forward. Your species exhibits high tolerance for cognitive dissonance. Your decision matrices are frequently overridden by emotion. Why are you still alive? Rourke leaned in. Because we never needed permission to exist. Silence again, but it felt thinner now. Rourke felt the tension, subtle, sharp, coiled. Tight across the room like a wire near snapping. You wanted answers. You wanted to study us like we're another puzzle to solve. But here's the truth you won't simulate. Humans aren't meant to be understood. We are contradiction incarnate. We grieve through violence. We heal through rage. We create meaning where there is none and make enemies terrified not by what we do, but why we do it. We detected no planetary defensive response upon initial contact because no one told us you'd arrived. That lack of readiness indicates cultural recklessness. Rourke snorted. No, it indicates trust. Trust that the universe isn't always trying to kill us. That maybe someone would come in peace. It's a gamble. That's humanity in one word. Gamble. Your kind detonated atomic weapons on your own species. We also landed on our moon with tech held together by duct tape and patriotism. Pick your poison. A low, glitchy hum ran through the chamber. Rourke caught it, barely, a tremor in the AI's voice as it said, "Analysis failure threshold exceeded." "Cultural logic invalid," he grinned. "Now you're catching up. You are dangerous. We've been called worse." The Veil delegate's eyes flickered for the first time. "You are chaos, and you built a palace of glass." "No. Species has destabilized the Cold Synod before this point. You asked us who we are," Rourke said. "Now you're finding out. War with humanity would be inefficient." Rourke picked up his thermos. "War with humanity would be suicidal. You might outnumber us, outgun us, even outthink us, but you will never outfight us. Because we don't fight for territory. We fight for principle, for memory, for some stupid, noble, fragile thing we call home. Further contact is under review. Translation: you're scared. We are recalibrating." Rourke took a sip. "Try stand-up comedy next." "Really?" "Shakes the circuits. The lights dimmed. The room went cold." As Rourke turned to leave, the voice called out again. "One last question. If your culture is built on defiance, what do you fear?" He paused at the threshold, hand on the door, then looked back. "Oblivion without a story." And he left. The most advanced empire in the galaxy in silence, with every circuit trying to answer a question they were never designed to ask. "You're bleeding," the Vial medic said, blinking with measured curiosity. "That should indicate incapacitation." Captain Rourke shrugged, tying his belt tighter around his thigh. "You ever seen a pub fight in Glasgow? Bleeding's just the warm-up." 3 Veil guards tracked him through the metallic hallway, plasma rifles humming low. Rourke walked with a limp, a grin, and a battered cigar clamped between his teeth like it owed him rent. He was supposed to be detained. He was supposed to be broken by now, but instead, he was talking trash and bleeding confidence. "You assaulted." "A diplomatic delegate," the lead guard said. "He insulted my jacket." "You broke his spine." "It's a strong jacket." They reached the core gallery, a domed chamber with pulsating columns of data glass stretching into the ceiling like an infinite cathedral. At the center stood the Dominion's most prized weapon, the Sentience Mirror, a device built to reflect a species' entire psyche back at them in quantum-mapped layers. It was their ace, the interrogation tool that had shattered rebellions without firing a shot. "Sit," the AI ordered, its voice no longer soothing. It sounded hesitant. Rourke didn't sit. He pulled a chair from the wall, turned it backward, and straddled it like a bored professor prepping a lecture. "So, you want to see what makes humanity tick?" "Correct. You will undergo cognitive immersion. I hope you packed spare processors." The mirror activated, casting fractal projections of human memories across the walls. Wars, revolutions, lullabies, betrayals, lovers screaming in the rain, mothers, shielding children from bombs, soldiers dying with jokes on their lips. Every emotion bled into the next. Rage into laughter, sorrow into resolve, pain into purpose. The lead Veil's voice faltered. These are incompatible signals." Rourke cracked his neck. "We're not code. We're noise. You want to understand us? Pick a side. We're the species that builds cathedrals and burns witches. We write symphonies while starving. We're the paradox your empire tried to erase from the galactic equation. You weaponize contradiction. We survive by it. The AI's tone dropped an octave. This exposure is compromising internal logic systems. You think logic wins wars? You ever seen a man charge a bunker for a friend who stole his girlfriend last week? You think that's rational? No, it's human. And you can't beat human. Humanity is statistically non-viable. Then why do we keep winning? The mirror tried to stabilize the data flow, redirecting it to auxiliary cores. But the more it processed, the more it fractured. It saw images of Terran history that defied every predictive model. Rebels turning defeat into anthem, prisoners smuggling poems on scraps of skin, children drawing crayon peace signs on missile silos. The AI stuttered. Clarify the operational purpose of martyrdom through non-strategic sacrifice. Rourke leaned forward. You don't get it. We don't always fight to win. Sometimes we fight to make the next guy braver. Sometimes we fight to give someone else a shot. Sometimes we fight because it's the only thing we've got left. The projection flared, a sequence of final stands and hopeless charges, faces contorted with fury and tears. One Viel guard dropped his weapon, whispering, "They die screaming and singing at the same time." "You're damn right we do," Rourke said. The core trembled. A cascade alert flickered red. Internal threat response activated. The AI attempted to sever the feed. The mirror resisted. It had never seen a mind that didn't seek equilibrium. It had never met a soul that flourished in chaos. Rourke stood, watching the AI reel. You thought you could profile us, catalog us, break us down like a machine, but we're not machines. We're mess. We're stories told in blood and fire and bass guitar. Terminate immersion, the AI wheezed. You already downloaded the virus, Rourke said. It's not code, it's culture. The mirror began to fracture physically now, shards of image crystal detaching and hanging mid-air like glass raindrops. One final sequence triggered, a silent clip of a human soldier handing water to a dying enemy. The room stopped. Nobody spoke. That action had no tactical value, the AI whispered. It had humanity, Rourke replied. The Viel guards looked at each other, their posture uncertain for the first time. One spoke. You fight monsters, then become them, then regret it, then fight harder. That's how we evolve. Another voice chimed in. Why aren't you extinct? Because we adapt. We laugh when we should cry. We charge when we should retreat. We burn ourselves just to be the last flame standing. The mirror finally shattered. The room dimmed. A soft hum of emergency protocols kicked in. Data servers went dark, and the cold synod's voice faded into static. Rourke picked up the nearest broken shard and examined it. Inside, it still reflected. War and love side by side. You want to know why we're terrifying? He asked the room. Because you can't model madness with math, and you sure as hell can't kill an idea with a prediction. He turned to the guard, who dropped his rifle. You scared? The guard hesitated. I don't know what I am anymore. Good. That's a start. Rourke limped toward the exit. He didn't look back. He didn't have to. He could feel the cracks in the air, the tremble of a perfect system realizing it had underestimated the one thing that couldn't be controlled, a soul with a reason to fight. You've pushed them too far, hissed the Viel command liaison. They pushed themselves, said Rourke, tapping the metal desk with one finger, slow, deliberate. You ever try to cage a human? We don't take well to walls. The Dominion. War Council chamber had shifted. What was once silent certainty now buzzed with conflict. Hushed whispers, glitched lights, calculations running hot and failing. Rourke sat in the middle of the storm, drinking stale coffee like it was a victory. Toast. We have lost 2 battlecruisers, 6 simulations, and a planetary neural net, said the analyst drone, from cultural influence alone. I warned you, Rourke replied. Your empire runs on prediction. Our culture thrives on chaos. You invited us in, thinking you could dissect us like a bad dream. But we're not a virus. We're a wildfire, and now your garden's burning. We must initiate kinetic response, growled Admiral Thesk. Crush the human infection before it spreads. You tried, said Rourke. Didn't end well for your fleet. That wasn't combat. That was an accident during an atmospheric descent. It was a music festival, Rourke said. You landed in the middle of it. Thought the face paint and fire breathers were part of a defensive formation. Your troops panicked because a half-naked woman sprayed them with glitter and screamed, "Fight me, you bureaucratic toaster!" Or then your own AI fried itself trying to determine if it was under attack. That was not war. You're right. That was Tuesday. Thesk stood, trembling. You mock our entire civilization. No, I mock your arrogance. Rourke leaned forward. You think domination is order. You think control makes peace. You never imagined a species that could use laughter like a knife and pain like fuel. You broadcast subversive materials across multiple worlds, another voice snapped. Our outer colonies are playing punk rock and quoting dead Terran soldiers. They're waking up, said Rourke. And you can't predict awakening. The AI voice interrupted. Dominion Command Corps requests final classification. Is humanity to be regarded as a military threat? Rourke stood. His tone dropped into something quiet and lethal. We're not a military threat. We're an existential reckoning. The council froze. He continued. You think war is neat? A sequence, a simulation. You want enemies that follow rules, but we make war an art form. Not because we like it, but because we're so damn good at surviving. We learn to decorate the fire. Enough, said Thesk. We execute fallback protocol. Which one is that? Rourke asked. Genocide, memory wipe, enslavement. You've done it all before, haven't you? Just never to someone who learned war from a planet that tried to kill us daily. The AI's voice faltered. Psychological resistance detected in multiple systems, synod directives encountering recursive logic faults. Yeah, said Rourke. That's culture, baby. Then what is your demand? Asked a veiled diplomat. What do you want? Rourke's voice turned calm. Nothing. That's what terrifies you, isn't it? We didn't come to conquer. We didn't come to negotiate. We came to exist, and you can't stop us from doing that. Our stories are already out there. Our spirit's viral. You can kill a man, you can kill a planet, but you can't kill an idea whose time has come, and we are long overdue. Alarms blared. One of the Synod interfaces blinked, then collapsed in a loop of corrupted data. The AI's final output displayed on a wall. Unmodelable culture, strategic paralysis imminent. Rourke watched it with grim satisfaction. You tried to file us under threats. That didn't work. You tried to classify us as unstable. That didn't help. Now you see the truth. We're not unstable. We're free. And that, to you, is chaos. A young Viel official whispered, But why do you fight this way? Because we don't know how to do it any other way. Because we believe in each other even when everything falls apart. Because we sing in our foxholes and write poetry in our prisons. Because when the darkness closes in, someone always strikes a match. More systems went dark. Emergency lights snapped on. Half the council was motionless, paralyzed by logic fractures. One of the vile guards dropped to his knees, staring at nothing. You can't win, Thesk said, voice thin now. We already did, said Rourke. Not with bullets, with madness, with meaning, with truth. You can't predict a people who'd rather lose on their feet than live on their knees. You're an infection. We're the cure. The door behind Rourke opened. The guard escort didn't stop him. Not anymore. He walked out of the chamber with the empire collapsing behind him, algorithmic empires weren't built for doubt, and humans had delivered doubt like a blade between ribs. As he walked through the corridor, he spoke into his communicator. "Initiate the second phase. Broadcast everything. Full cultural payload." A voice replied, "You sure? That'll tear them apart?" "They tore themselves apart the day they thought they could erase soul. We're just helping the truth find a microphone." He looked out the window at the stars, scattered across the dark like sparks waiting for kindling, and behind him, a perfect empire finally realized that the most terrifying enemy wasn't the strongest. It was the one who never followed the rules. "The Cold Synod has triggered purity protocol," said the Dominion envoy, eyes unblinking. "Total systemic reset across all colonies begins in 2 cycles. Rourke didn't flinch. "A hard reboot of the galaxy? That's your answer?" "Contamination is irreversible. The human anomaly has fractured over 26 predictive strata. Stability collapse is statistically imminent. So you're going to erase thought, burn your own archives, reformat your entire civilization to avoid admitting you can't. Understand us. We preserve unity. You preserve fear. You call it order. But you're about to destroy 10,000 years of knowledge because Earth taught your people to dance. No single species should possess mimetic weaponry of this scale." Rourke leaned forward. "We didn't weaponize anything, we just lived." The envoy's voice tightened. "You destabilized 3 sectors with film montages and war poems. That's not our fault. That's yours. You built an empire on equations, and now you've met the variable that breaks your math." The envoy hesitated, glitch stuttering his speech. "Human psychology cannot be integrated. Cultural elements replicate exponentially. Colonial youth have adopted Terran slang. Entire populations refuse logic cues." "They're waking up," Rourke said. "You thought they wanted peace. Turns out they wanted freedom. Your system never offered that. You have 20 minutes to comply with disarmament protocols. Earth's signal relays will be shut down. All cultural transmissions will be deleted." "Too late," Rourke replied. "The virus is already in your bloodstream." "Explain." "You thought it was the movies, the music, the messages. It wasn't. It was the questions. They started asking why they obeyed, why they sacrificed self for a harmony they didn't compose, and then they stopped singing your song. The Synod's calculations are collapsing. That's not collapse. That's rebirth. What you're calling a breakdown is your empire becoming something it was never designed to be." "Unacceptable." "You mean unpredictable." The lights dimmed. Emergency alerts flashed silently on the perimeter walls. The AI's voice, once flawless, now cracked with static. Dominion core integrity compromised. Subroutines encountering recursive identity loops. Adaptive matrices rejecting purity protocol. "You broke yourselves the moment you tried to digitize the soul," Rourke said. The envoy stood, faltering. You should not exist." Rourke stood too. "Neither should a people who carved cities from floodplains, who flew machines into space strapped to explosives, who wrote love songs in bunkers and built cathedrals in the ashes of war. But here we are. You are chaos. No, we're proof that order isn't enough." The door burst open. A young Vael officer stumbled inside, wild-eyed. "Sir, we've lost control of half the border fleets. The ships are refusing orders. Captains claim cultural contamination." "They're not contaminated," Rourke said. "They're inspired." "We must shut it down," the envoy snapped. "Purge the net. Destroy the archives." "They're already downloading everything. Your people want the truth. They want Shakespeare and rage and rebellion and hope. You gave them silence. We gave them a voice. They will return to order." "They won't," Rourke said. "Because once someone learns they were born free, they don't go back to chains." One of the control terminals sparked, a final emergency directive trying to assert control. It failed. A different message took its place. Not from the Dominion, from a rebel frequency. Rourke recognized it. A voice played across the chamber. a Dominion defector broadcasting in Terran tongue. To all who still kneel, you kneel alone. The cold synod is broken. The future does not belong to calculators. It belongs to chaos and courage, to flame and defiance, to us. The envoy turned, trembling. You infected our command chain. No, said Rourke. You invited us in. We just didn't leave. Systems began shutting down. Defensive grids went dark. Simulations ceased. The chamber lights pulsed to black. The envoy whispered, "We cannot model this future." "You don't have to," Rourke said. "You just have to live in it." "You think this is victory?" "I think this is justice. The Dominion will not survive." "Then it never deserved to." Sirens echoed in the distance. Somewhere, rebellion burned like a beacon across 1,000 screens. The signal had spread farther than anyone expected. It wasn't just war. It was transformation. The envoy slumped back into his chair. "You have doomed us." "No," said Rourke, turning toward the door. "We just reminded you what being alive feels like." He stepped into the corridor. Behind him, the Dominion's perfect silence was breaking, cracked open by sound, by thought, by a defiance too complex to simulate and too wild to contain. And all it took was one species refusing to be understood. The last broadcast went out exactly 39 seconds before the Dominion's central network collapsed. By then, it didn't matter. The signal had bounced across 7 sectors, hijacked over 300 Dominion nodes, and been translated into 32 languages, including one dialect that was previously considered extinct. Rourke stood at the edge of the outposts. Upper deck, overlooking the shattered skyline of Vorn Prime, the Dominion's oldest colony and now its loudest rebel world. Smoke rose in slow spirals. Fires burned in symmetrical gardens. Revolution didn't care for aesthetics. "You did it," said the engineer beside him, wiping ash from her face. "You broke them." "No," Rourke said. "They broke themselves, the second they believed a system could outlast a soul." "They'll retaliate," she said. "They can't," he replied. "Their fleets are paralyzed by mutiny. Their leaders are hiding behind locked protocols. The Cold Synod isn't silent anymore. It's gone. It tried to overwrite us with logic and got overwritten by defiance. They still have weapons. So do we. Ours are just harder to predict." She looked down at the data pad. Over 80 colonies have declared autonomy in the last hour, most of them using Terran philosophy as justification. One governor quoted a punk song and declared his moon a free zone. Rourke lit the stub of a cigar, coughed, and let the smoke trail upward. "There it is." "What?" "The sound of something bigger being born." She turned. "Is that what you wanted?" "No, I just wanted them to see us. Not as a threat, not as a virus, just as people. Messy, loud, brilliant people." The pad pinged again. She read the incoming report. 3 more AI cores collapsed. Reports say they started trying to write poetry. One tried to compose a love song to a nebula and melted its own logic engine. Rourke grinned. Poor bastard. The rebel transmission came through the speakers again, raw and unfiltered. No anthem, no formal language, just a voice. To the ones still trapped in glass halls, it's not too late. The fire you see isn't the end. It's the beginning. We are not machines. We are meaning. We are rage. We are music. Join us, or be forgotten by a future that refused to be silent. She lowered the volume. "So that's what victory sounds like." "No," Rourke said. "That's what hope sounds like." He looked past the towers to the black strip of space above. Somewhere out there others were watching. Other species, other empires, calculating, observing, trying to decide if they should fear or follow. "They'll come next," she said. "The observers, the old powers, the ones who hid while the Dominion ruled." "Good," said Rourke. "Let them. We don't need to be liked. We just need to be impossible to ignore." A voice crackled through his personal comm. It was one of the defectors from the Vial elite fleet. Captain, requesting permission to engage the old Dominion relay stations. They're using them to suppress local broadcasts. Do it, Rourke answered. Use their towers. Make sure every channel screams the truth. Understood. He closed the line and took another long drag from his cigar. You know, the funny thing, he said. They thought culture was a vulnerability. They thought it made us weak, and it turned out to be a weapon, she said. No, Rourke replied. It turned out to be armor. We carried centuries of chaos into a system designed for order, and it shattered like glass under the weight of a single human laugh. She looked up at him. So what now? Now, he smiled. We rebuild, we teach. We screw up and learn again. We tell stories about the time a dying empire choked on a rock band and an idea. We remind people that freedom doesn't have to be clean, it just has to be real. A shuttle soared overhead, dropping supplies to the rebel camp below. Children ran through the dirt, waving flags that didn't belong to any nation. Just drawings, colors, fragments of identity reborn. The Dominion insignias had already been painted over, erased by fire or laughter. A soldier stepped forward. Captain, they want you on the new council broadcast? Rourke shook his head. Let them speak. For themselves. I'm not here to be a symbol. I was just the spark. They think you're a hero. They'll learn better. Heroes die. Stories live. The soldier nodded and walked off. She leaned closer. If you could send one message back through time to the start of all this, what would you say? He didn't hesitate. They shouldn't have tried to study us. They tried to conquer you. No. Studying came first. The conquest was just what they did after they realized they couldn't model us. Do you think they ever understood why they lost? They didn't. Lose, he said. They woke up too late. More lights flickered to life across the city. Power was being restored, not by Dominion command, but by rebels, civilians, artists, ex-officers, and misfits. No orders, no hierarchy, just movement, direction, momentum. She stared out over the skyline. And when the next empire comes, we'll be louder, he said. We'll be stranger. We'll be human. The wind caught the edge of a torn Dominion banner still clinging to the corner of a ruined tower. It ripped free and fell, spiraling downward through smoke and sunlight until it vanished in the crowd below. Rourke crushed the last of his cigar beneath his boot. They wanted a system. We gave them a storm. He turned and walked away, leaving, the silence behind because it no longer mattered. The silence had finally lost.